The rain hammered the roof like it was trying to punch through to the other side of the world, and that's when Jake's fingers, rough from years of gripping baseball bats and steering wheels, brushed against mine under the threadbare quilt we dragged from the attic. "Shit," he muttered, his voice a gravelly whisper that cut through the thunder like a knife. But he didn't pull away. In that split second, with lightning cracking the sky open outside Sam's childhood window, I knew my life had just veered off the map I'd been following since freshman year of high school, straight into territory marked, "Do not enter." I was Alex Rivera, 18 years old and still figuring out how to tie a Windsor knot without looking like a kid playing dress-up, the kind of guy who blended into the background at parties in our sleepy Ohio suburb of Elmwood Heights. Elmwood wasn't the kind of place that made headlines, unless you counted the time the high school quarterback got caught with a grow-op in his basement, which everyone did because what else was there to talk about? We had strip malls with flickering neon signs, Friday night lights that lit up the whole town like God's own spotlight, and families like the Harrisons, who lived in that big colonial on Maple Street with the wraparound porch and the tire swing that had seen better days. Sam Harrison was my anchor, the best friend who'd stuck with me through braces that made me sound like I was chewing gravel and the awkward phase where my voice cracked mid-sentence during algebra presentations. We'd met in 7th grade over a shared hatred of Mr. Hargrove's pop quizzes, bonding in the back row while doodling stick figure battles on our notebooks. Sam was the golden boy varsity soccer, straight-A student, the one who could charm his way out of detention with a grin that said, "Ah, come on, coach." Me? I was the sidekick, the one cracking jokes to deflect the loneliness that gnawed at me like termites in an old barn. That summer, right after graduation, Sam had dragged me into his orbit more than ever. His parents were off on some European cruise. Mom and Dad Harrison, living their empty nest dream, and Sam figured it was the perfect time for a guy's week at the house. Video games till dawn, raiding the fridge for leftover lasagna, and blasting Springsteen so loud the neighbors probably contemplated calling the cops. But on night 3, the skies opened up like they'd been holding a grudge, flooding the streets and turning Maple Street into a river. My beat-up Honda Civic, affectionately dubbed the Lemon, because it leaked oil like a sieve, refused to start in the downpour, stranding me there with a dead battery and a phone at 3%. "Stay over, dude," Sam had said, clapping me on the back with that easy camaraderie that made everything feel simple. "Plenty of room. Jake's crashing here too. Says his apartment in Columbus is a war zone with the renovations." Jake, Sam's older brother, the one who'd vanished into the ether after high school, chasing some nebulous dream of pro ball that fizzled out after a knee injury in the minors. I'd always known of him, the way you know of urban legends. Tall tales from Sam about Jake's wild college parties, his stint bartending in Chicago, the string of girlfriends that left a trail of broken hearts from Cleveland to Cincinnati. Jake Harrison, 26 and built like he could bench press a Buick, with that perpetual 5 o'clock shadow and eyes the color of Lake Erie on a stormy day, gray and endless. I'd seen him maybe a handful of times over the years, always at family barbecues where he'd ruffle my hair like I was still 12 and toss me a beer with a wink that made my stomach do flips I chalked up to nerves. But nerves about what? I wasn't. I'd never said it out loud, not even to Sam. In Elmwood Heights, you didn't talk about stuff like that. You played football, chased girls at the county fair, and buried whatever didn't fit the script under layers of flannel and false bravado. So there I was, towel-dried and borrowing Sam's old Metallica tee that hung loose on my frame, sprawled on the lumpy guest bed in the basement rec room while the storm raged upstairs. Sam had conked out early, blamed it on the 6-pack of PBR we'd split, leaving me to the hum of the ancient dehumidifier and the flicker of a black-and-white rerun of The Twilight Zone on the tube TV. That's when Jake wandered down, shirtless in sweatpants that rode low on his hips, carrying 2 mugs of what smelled like spiked hot chocolate. "Figured you could use this," he said, handing me one with a nod toward the stairs. "Sam snores like a freight train. You cool down here." His voice had that Midwestern drawl, softened by city edges. Vowels stretched like taffy. Consonants clipped just enough to remind you he wasn't from around here anymore. I took the mug, our knuckles grazing, and mumbled something about being fine. But my pulse was already betraying me, thudding like bass at a drive-in movie. We settled on the sagging couch, the kind with springs that poked through the cushions, and talked about nothing and everything. The Indians' shot at the playoffs, the way Elmwood's main drag had gotten a facelift with those go-dofful fake-ass lamps, how Jake's latest gig as a mechanic at a custom shop in Columbus paid the bills but left him staring at the ceiling at night, wondering if this was it. "You ever feel like you're just drifting?" he asked, staring into his mug like it held the answers. The lightning flashed, painting his profile in stark silver. Strong jaw, a scar above his left eyebrow from some long-ago wipeout on his dirt bike. I swallowed hard, the chocolate burning sweet on my tongue. "All the time," I admitted, surprising myself. "Like high school's this big setup, and now we're all just improvising." He laughed, low and rumbling, and shifted closer to point out a glitch in the TV static. That's when it happened. The brush of his hand, accidental at first, then lingering as the thunder boomed and the power flickered, plunging us into darkness broken only by the occasional blue-white stab from outside. Neither of us moved. The air thickened, charged like the storm itself, and in the shadows, his face was inches from mine, breath warm against my cheek. "Alex," he said, my name sounding like a question, a confession, a plea, and just like that, the quilt was over us both, a flimsy barrier against the world tilting sideways. The next morning, sunlight sliced through the blinds like it had a personal vendetta, turning the rec room into a crime scene of empty mugs and crumpled chip bags. Sam bounded down the stairs in his boxers, hair a rooster's comb, oblivious as ever. "Rise and shine, losers. Dad left cash for breakfast. Pancakes at Denny's." Jake was already up, vanished like smoke, leaving behind the faint scent of his aftershave. Something woodsy, like pine and regret. I played it cool, laughing at Sam's dumb jokes about the storm washing away half the town. But inside, I was unraveling, replaying that touch like a loop on an old VHS tape. Over the next couple days, the invitation stretched. My car still dead, the mechanic backed up till Friday, and Jake became this gravitational pull I couldn't ignore. He'd catch me in the kitchen at odd hours, offering to fix the lemon himself, his hands black with grease as he tinkered in the driveway, muscles flexing under a faded Ohio State tee. "You're quiet today," he'd say, wiping his brow with the back of his arm, and I'd mumble about college apps or whatever lie came to mind, because admitting the truth, that his presence made the air hum, that I spent nights staring at the ceiling imagining what-ifs, felt like stepping off a cliff. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the backyard in honeyed gold, Sam roped us into a pickup game of catch with his old glove, the leather cracked but supple. Jake tossed the ball my way, easy lobs at first, then harder, testing. I fumbled one, laughed it off, but he jogged over, close enough that I could see the flecks of green in his gray eyes. "Like this?" he murmured, adjusting my grip, his palm over mine, steady and sure. Sam's voice cut through from the porch. "Hurry up, romantics." And we sprang apart, but the heat lingered, a brand on my skin. That night, with Sam crashed out again after a marathon of Call of Duty, Jake knocked softly on the rec room door. "Can't sleep," he said, slipping inside with a six-pack dangling from his fingers. We cracked them open on the couch, the fizz echoing like distant thunder, and the words tumbled out. His failed tryouts, the girl in Chicago who'd ghosted him after he came clean about his doubts, the way family expectations felt like chains disguised as love. "Sam's got it all figured," he said bitterly, taking a swig. "Straight as an arrow, bound for law school. Me? I'm the screw-up who can't commit to a zip code." "You're not a screw-up," I blurted, the beer loosening my tongue. "You're real. That's more than most people get." He looked at me then, really looked, and the space between us shrank to nothing. His hand found my knee, tentative, then firm, and I didn't breathe, didn't dare, as he leaned in. The kiss, if that's what it was, soft and searching, was over before it began, a ghost of pressure that left me reeling. "Sorry," he whispered, pulling back, eyes shadowed. "Shouldn't have." But I was already gone, floating in the wreckage of that moment, knowing nothing would ever be the same. The days blurred after that, a haze of stolen glances and unspoken electricity that crackled whenever Jake and I crossed paths in the Harrison house. Elmwood Heights simmered under a late summer heat wave, the kind that turned the air sticky and the nights restless, with crickets chorusing like they knew all our secrets. Sam, bless his clueless heart, kept the routine rolling. Morning runs along the cracked sidewalks of Maple Street. Afternoons at the community pool where we'd cannonball off the high dive and pretend we were invincible. But my mind was elsewhere, tangled in the what-ifs of Jake's half-apology. The way his lips had tasted faintly of hops and hesitation. I started finding excuses to linger, small rebellions against the normalcy. Hey, mind if I tag along to the shop? I'd ask when Jake fired up his truck for work, and he'd nod, that half-smile cracking his facade like sunlight through clouds. The drive to Columbus was 40 minutes of golden-hour highways, cornfields whipping by under a sky the color of faded denim. We'd talk baseball, his glory days versus my little league disasters, or he'd crank the radio to some classic rock station, belting out Bon Jovi off-key until I joined in, laughing till my sides ached. The shop was a grease monkey's paradise. Bays echoing with air wrenches and curses, the air thick with oil and rubber. Jake moved like he owned the place, bantering with the crew. Guys with tattoos snaking up their arms and stories longer than the suspension on the jacked-up F-150s they lifted. "This here's Alex, my brother's buddy," he'd introduce, slinging an arm around my shoulders casual as you please, and I'd play along, handing tools and fetching parts, feeling like I belonged in a way I never had back home. One afternoon, as the sun baked the asphalt into mirages, we tackled a '72 Mustang that purred like a beast once Jake got under the hood. Sweat beaded on his forehead, trickling down his neck as he torqued a bolt, and I couldn't look away, the flex of his forearms, the focus in his eyes like he was wrestling demons instead of rusted metal. "Hand me the 9/16", he grunted, and when I did, our fingers tangled, holding a beat too long. The shop noise faded, just us in that pocket of time, until a horn blared from the lot and snapped us back. That night, back at the house, Sam announced he was heading to a bonfire at Jenny Whitaker's. Some end-of-summer rager with esmores and skinny-dipping rumors. "You in, Alex? Jake's bailing. Gotta call his girl or whatever." His girl. The words landed like a gut punch. Jake had mentioned her in passing. Lindsay, a paralegal from Akron, the kind of woman who baked pies for bake sales and volunteered at animal shelters. Stable. Normal. Everything I wasn't. Jake caught my eye from the kitchen doorway, jaw tight. "Yeah, rain check," I muttered to Sam, feigning a headache, and watched him peel out in the lemon, taillights fading into the twilight. The house settled into quiet, save for the tick of the grandfather clock in the hall. I wandered to the back porch, the screen door creaking like an old man's sigh, and lit a cigarette I'd bummed from Sam's stash. My one vice, hidden like everything else. Footsteps on the wood planks, and there was Jake, leaning against the railing with a beer in hand. "Mind if I join the pity party?" He slid down beside me, our shoulders brushing, and we smoked in silence, exhaling plumes that curled toward the stars. "Lindsay's great," he started, unprompted, like he owed me an explanation. "We met at a wedding last fall. She's easy, knows what she wants, a house, kids, the picket fence. And me? I'm just trying not to drown." I flicked ash over the edge, watching it scatter like confetti. "Then why does it sound like you're already underwater?" He turned, face half-shadowed by the porch light, and for a moment, I saw the boy he'd been, vulnerable, adrift, the weight of Harrison expectations pressing down like the humid air. "Because I'm a coward, Alex. Always have been." His voice cracked, raw as an open wound. "Dad wanted me in the majors, Mom wanted grandkids yesterday. Sam? He's the success story. And me? I like guys sometimes. More than sometimes. But saying it out loud? That's like burning the whole damn bridge." The admission hung there, heavy and electric, and I felt my own walls crumbling. "Me too," I whispered, the words tasting like freedom and fear in equal measure. "Since forever. But in Elmwood, it's like being allergic to your own skin." We sat with that, two confessions mingling in the night air, until his hand found mine again. Deliberate this time, thumb tracing circles on my knuckles. No kiss, Not yet, but the promise of one shimmered like heat off pavement. The bonfire stories filtered back the next day. Sam regaling us over breakfast about Jenny's drunken karaoke and a near miss with the cops. Jake and I exchanged looks across the table, a secret language blooming in the mundane. The stayover stretched another day when the mechanic texted about a busted alternator. And I didn't fight it. Afternoons became hours. Drives to the quarry outside town, where we'd skip stones across the glassy water and talk dreams. His of opening his own garage, mine of escaping to Chicago for art school, sketching faces that looked suspiciously like his. One evening, as cicadas droned their symphony, we ended up at the old drive-in on Route 23, the one with the sagging screen and speakers that crackled like popcorn. Top Gun was playing, a rerun for nostalgia's sake, and we parked in the back row, windows down, the lot half empty with families and couples. Maverick's jet roars filled the air, but I was hyper-aware of Jake beside me. The brush of his arm on the console, the way he chuckled at Goose's antics. Halfway through, as the stars wheeled overhead, he draped his arm across the back of the seat, casual, then not. His fingers toyed with the collar of my shirt, sending shivers despite the muggy night. "Alex," he said during a quiet scene, voice low over the dialogue. "This us, it's messing with my head. Lindsay's coming down this weekend. What the hell am I supposed to do?" Conflict etched his face, the thrill warring with terror, and I wanted to tell him to choose himself, to hell with the script. But words failed, so I leaned in instead, closing the gap with a kiss that started tentative, lips soft, questioning, then deepened as he responded, hand cupping my jaw like I was fragile, precious. Lindsay arrived Friday like a Midwest whirlwind, all blonde waves and sundresses, pulling into the driveway in a sensible Civic with Ohio plates. Sam hooped a greeting, hugging her like a sister, while I hung back in the kitchen, heart pounding like a bass drum. Jake introduced us smoothly. "Alex is crashing here till his ride's fixed," and she smiled, warm and genuine, shaking my hand with fingers that smelled of vanilla lotion. "Any friend of the boys is family," she said, and I nodded, choking down the bile of guilt. Dinner was a minefield. Lasagna bubbling in the oven, laughter echoing off the dining room walls as stories flew. Her law firm drama, his shop escapades, Sam's college tales. I played the part, cracking jokes about the storm that stranded me, but my eyes kept drifting to Jake, catching the flicker of unease in his posture, the way his knee bounced under the table. After, as Sam and Lindsay cleared plates, he cornered me by the fridge. "This is insane," he hissed, eyes wild. "Seeing her now after. God, Alex, I can't breathe." "Then don't," I shot back, voice a whisper shout. "Tell her. Tell them all." But fear shadowed his gaze, the Harrison legacy a noose tightening. That night, with the house asleep and her car in the drive, he slipped down to the rec room again. But the air was different, tainted by betrayal's first whisper. We didn't touch, just talked in halting sentences about escape routes that didn't exist, and when he left, the door clicked shut like a lock turning. By Sunday, the alternator was fixed. Lindsay was gone back to Akron with promises of weekends together, and Sam was packing for orientation. "You're welcome anytime, man," he said, fist-bumping me goodbye. Jake lingered in the doorway as I loaded the lemon, his expression a storm cloud. "Drive safe," he said, voice flat, and I drove away with a piece of my heart lodged in that colonial on Maple Street, wondering if unexpected meant heartbreak in disguise. Fall crept in like a thief, painting Elmwood Heights in russet and gold, the leaves crunching under tires like brittle bones. I threw myself into the rhythm of community college. Intro to Psych, a part-time gig slinging lattes at the corner Starbucks knockoff. Anything to drown out the echo of Jake's voice in my head, that gravelly timbre replaying our confessions like a greatest hits album I couldn't skip. Sam texted daily, memes and gripes about dorm food. But Jake? Radio silence. A like on an Instagram story here, a "how's it going" buried in a group chat there, but nothing real. It stung, a slow burn that kept me up nights, sketching feverishly in my notebook. His profile against quarry water, his hand mid-toss with the baseball, fragments of a mosaic I couldn't assemble. 2 months in, Sam called late one October evening, his voice buzzing with that rare urgency. "Bro, emergency. Jake's in the ER, slipped on oil at the shop, busted his ankle bad. Mom's freaking, Dad's en route from Toledo. Can you come? He asked for you." My stomach dropped, keys in hand before the line went dead. The drive to Columbus was a blur of taillights and what-ifs. Rain slicking the windshield like tears I refused to shed. The hospital was a sterile maze of beeps and bleach, fluorescent lights buzzing like angry hornets. Sam met me in the waiting room, hollow-eyed under the harsh glare. "Compound fracture," he said, rubbing his neck. "Surgery tomorrow. Lindsay's flying in from a deposition. Whole families converging." I nodded, throat tight, and when they let me back, there he was, Jake, pale against starched sheets, leg elevated in a bulky cast, eyes lighting up despite the morphine haze. "Alex," he breathed, like my name was oxygen. "Didn't think you'd." "Shut up," I said, forcing a grin as I pulled up a chair. "Who else is gonna mock your invalid ass?" We talked around the edges. His dumb luck, the shop's insurance nightmare, until the drugs pulled him under, leaving me to stare at the monitor's green pulse, vowing silently to be the friend he needed, whatever that meant. Lindsay arrived at dawn, all efficiency in heels and a trench coat, hugging me briskly before commandeering the nurse for updates. She was steel-wrapped in silk, the kind of woman who color-coded her planner and volunteered for bake sales without breaking a sweat. "Jake's told me so much about you," she said over vending machine coffee, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Sam's little shadow, right?" I laughed it off, but the words rankled, a reminder of my place or lack thereof. The family descended. Mom Harrison with Tupperware of meatloaf, Dad with gruff pats on the back and tales of his own mill accidents. Sam hovered, cracking jokes to lighten the air, but tension simmered. Jake's glances my way lingering too long, Lindsay's hand possessive on his arm. Discharge day, I drove him back to his apartment, a third-floor walk-up above a laundromat that smelled of detergent and despair. Boxes still unpacked from the move, tools scattered like shrapnel. "Crash here if you want," he offered, crutches propped against the couch. "Company'd be nice." I should have said no. Instead, I nodded, unpacking groceries while he napped, the domesticity a dangerous illusion. Evenings became ritual. Microwave dinners on TV trays, Friday night lights marathons where we'd yell at the screen like invested uncles. His cast itched, mood swung from grateful to brooding, and in the quiet hours, truth seeped out. "Lindsay wants to set a date," he confessed one night, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. "Spring wedding. Says it's time to settle the chaos. But every time I picture it, I see this." His hand gestured vaguely, toward me, toward us, and the air thickened, unspoken desires coiling like smoke. I kept my distance at first, sleeping on the lumpy futon, but proximity eroded resolve. One stormy Thursday, echoes of that first night, he woke from a pain pill nap, sweaty and disoriented, and I was there, hand on his forehead like a mother hen. "Stay," he murmured, pulling me down beside him on the bed. Cast be damned. We lay there, fully clothed, his head on my chest, heartbeat sinking to the rain's patter. "I miss this," he whispered. "Feeling, right?" My fingers carted through his hair, soft as corn silk, and I pressed a kiss to his temple, chaste but loaded. Word spread. Sam dropping by with burgers, Lindsay calling with checklists, and the charade strained. She'd visit weekends, filling the fridge with kale smoothies and quizzing him on guest lists, while I'd fade into the wallpaper, the helpful friend. But Jake's eyes followed me when she wasn't looking, a magnetic pull that frayed my nerves. "You're torturing yourself," Sam said one afternoon, cornering me on the fire escape during a smoke break. "And him. What's the deal, Alex? You've been weird since summer." I deflected with a joke about frat haze, but guilt gnawed deeper. Betrayal wasn't just Jake's secret. It was mine too, the lie of omission poisoning every laugh, every brush of hands in the kitchen. Climax brewed when Lindsay announced a family dinner at the Harrisons for Thanksgiving. Full spread, aunts and uncles, the works. "It'll be perfect," she cooed over speakerphone, and Jake agreed, voice hollow. The drive back to Elmwood was fraught, his cast foot awkward on the passenger side. Radio tuned low to NPR's melancholy folk hour. "I have to end it," he said finally, as cornfields gave way to subdivisions. "Before the holidays. Can't string her along." Relief flooded me, chased by terror. What if ending that meant ending us too? We arrived to chaos. Mom orchestrating pies, Dad manning the bird, Sam stringing lights with teenage cousins. Lindsay greeted us at the door, apron tied, all domestic bliss, and I swallowed envy like bitter pills. Dinner was a symphony of clinking silverware and laughter, turkey moist and stories tall. But under the table, Jake's foot, cast and all, nudged mine, a Morse code of desperation. Afterward, as dishes piled and wine flowed, he vanished to the porch and I followed, the cold air a slap. "Tonight," he said, breath fogging, "after everyone's out." Hope flickered, fragile as the pumpkin candles guttering on the railing. But fate, that cruel director, had other scripts. Lindsay found us there, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "What's this?" she asked, voice a whip crack. Jake stammered, I froze, and the truth spilled. Not all of it, but enough. The doubts, the confusions. My name hanging unspoken like an accusation. She didn't scream. Worse, she deflated, tears carving tracks through mascara. "I knew," she whispered. "The calls from Chicago, the late nights. But I thought, God, Jake, I thought we were building something." She fled inside, sobs echoing, and the family converged like vultures. Mom's gasps, Dad's thunderous silence, Sam's wide-eyed betrayal. "You," Sam spat at me later, in the driveway under sodium lamps. "My best friend? With my brother." The punch, metaphorical, but it landed, doubled me over. Jake crutched out, face ashen. "Sam, wait." But my ride was there, the lemon idling, and I drove into the night, tears blurring taillights, the unexpected fracturing into shards. Recovery was solitude. Holed up in my childhood bedroom, phone silenced, sketches piling like unanswered prayers. Sam iced me out, texts turning curt then ceasing. Jake's messages trickled. "Apologies, please," but I couldn't reply, the wound too raw. Lindsay vanished from his stories, the engagement off in a flurry of returns and recriminations. Holidays passed in a fog of forced cheer, New Year's a solo toast with flat champagne. Spring thawed the ground but not my heart, until one April dawn, a knock rattled the door. Jake stood there, cast-free, leaner but steadier, holding a baseball glove, the old one from summer. "I came out," he said simply, "to everyone. Lost Sam for a bit, Mom's in therapy, Dad. Working on it. But I'm free, Alex. And I want this, us if you'll have me." The world paused, then rushed back. And in the porch light's glow, I pulled him inside, the kiss finally unburdened, deep and promising. Summer returned to Elmwood Heights like an old flame, all fireflies and firework pops. But for me, it carried the weight of reconstruction. Patching cracks in foundations I'd thought solid. Jake and I navigated the aftermath in fits and starts, stolen weekends in Columbus where we'd hole up in his apartment, cooking spaghetti from a jar and binging The Office till we quoted lines in our sleep. No grand gestures, just the quiet building. His hand in mine during walks along the Scioto River, my head on his shoulder at indie flicks in the short north. Felt real, fragile as new growth, but rooted. Sam was the fault line. Reconciliation came slow, brokered over beers at a neutral dive bar outside town. Neutral ground, he texted, like we were diplomats in a Cold War. He slid into the booth opposite us, eyes guarded behind aviators, nursing a Bud Light like it was medicine. "This doesn't erase it," he started, voice clipped. "You lied, both of you. Made me feel like a chump." Jake nodded, owning it. "I was scared, Sammy, of losing you, of the family imploding." While I sat silent, the betrayer in the crosshairs. Sam's gaze pinned me. "And you?" Best friend my ass. Sneaking around like some soap opera. The words barbed, drawing blood from wounds I'd barely stanched. I didn't know how, I admitted, voice cracking. Thought if I said it, it'd break everything, including us. He exhaled, long and ragged, and after an hour of halting truths, his own fears of the family fracturing, the pressure of being the good son, he extended a fist. Slow, he warned. But I'm trying. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a bridge, creaky but crossing. The Harrisons adapted unevenly. Mom dove into PFLAG meetings, baking rainbow cookies that tasted like sawdust but meant the world. Dad grunted approvals over grill sessions, his homophobia thawing like Midwest ice. Lindsay, she surfaced once, a polite email to Jake, wishing well, no hard feelings, then faded, her absence a ghost that haunted his quieter moments. I hurt her bad, he'd say, staring at the ceiling. Broke the one thing I was supposed to protect. Guilt shadowed him, a reminder that love's collateral was steep. For me, the betrayal cut deepest inward. Nights alone in my apartment, post-graduation, a shoebox above a pawn shop. I'd replay the porch scene, Lindsay's face crumpling like paper. Was I the villain, the interloper who toppled the picket fence? Therapy helped, a campus counselor with wire rims and zero judgment, unpacking the closet I'd cracked open. You didn't cause his doubts, she'd say. You just illuminated them. But illumination brought its own glare, exposing insecurities. My art school's deferral, the barista job's dead-end grind, the fear that I was just a phase for a man twice burned. Climax simmered through July, building to the county fair. Elmwood's crown jewel, with Ferris wheels creaking against the stars and funnel cakes greasing fingers. Sam insisted we go as a trio, normalcy boot camp, he joked, but nerves jangled like the Midway bells. Jake in cargo shorts and a Henley that hugged his frame, me in faded Levi's, Sam scouting dates amid the cotton candy haze. We rode the scrambler till dizzy, laughed at rigged ring toss scams, but undercurrents pulled, stares from old classmates, whispers like, is that Harrison's brother with? It peaked on the Ferris wheel, gondolas swaying at the apex, town lights sprawling below like a circuit board. Jake's arm around me, casual public affection we'd practiced in mirrors, and Sam's forced nonchalance across from us. This is weird, he blurted as the wheel creaked downward. Seeing you two, like that. Jake tensed, but I jumped in. Weird good or weird bad? Sam shrugged, vulnerability cracking his armor. Both? I mean, you're happy. That's the good. But it's like, my world's tilting. Descent brought confrontation, not explosive, but seismic. At the parking lot, under sodium arcs, Dad Harrison waited by the truck, arms crossed, face a thunderhead. Heard the talk, he growled as we approached. Town's buzzing. You gonna make this a spectacle, son? Jake stepped forward, voice steady. Not a spectacle, Dad. Just life. And if Elmwood can't handle it, maybe we outgrow Elmwood. The air crackled, Dad's fists clenching. But Mom materialized from the crowd, hand on his arm. Enough, Tom. We've talked this. He deflated, muttering retreats, and drove off alone, leaving us in stunned silence. The fallout rippled. Jake quit the shop, cashing savings for a pop-up garage in the city, chasing that dream with renewed fire. I applied to art programs in earnest, portfolio bolstered by sketches of him, raw, reverent. Sam visited more, thawing into movie nights where he'd rib us mercilessly, the betrayal scar fading to a faint line. But doubt lingered in Jake's eyes, nights when he'd wake sweating from dreams of Lindsay's tears, whispering, what if I ruin you too? August brought the storm, literal and figurative. A nor'easter remnant dumped inches overnight, flooding basements and canceling fares. Stranded again, we hunkered in his new space, a rented bay with cots and tool chests for walls. Rain drummed the tin roof as we sorted parts, his ankle scar a pale reminder. Remember that first night? He asked, wiping a wrench. Quilt? Thunder, your hand in mine. I smiled, pulling him close. Best bad decision ever. But betrayal's echo struck when Sam called. Dad's heart scare, Minor but a wake-up. "He's asking for you," Sam said to Jake. "Not me. You." The hospital visit was a reckoning. Dad frail in a gown, monitors beeping, eyes wet. "Scared me straight," he rasped. "Literally." "I'm sorry, kid. For the pressure, the bullshit." Jake broke then, hugging his father awkwardly over rails, tears soaking the sheets. I waited outside, the hallway's hush amplifying sobs, knowing this mended more than words could. Yet conflict crested in September, a phone call shattering the idyll. "Lindsay," voice steel over static. "I'm pregnant." The words hung, a grenade pin pulled. Jake paled, sinking to the kitchen floor. While I stood, he shattered. Not violently, but inward, pacing the apartment like a caged wolf, self-recrimination spilling. "See? I destroy everything. You should have run when you could." I grabbed his shoulders, forcing eye contact. "No, you chose truth. That's not destruction. That's courage." But doubt seeded, nights of distance, his touches hesitant, mine pleading. The betrayal's depth revealed itself in mirrors. My own complicity, the thrill of winning him blinding me to the wreckage. Sam mediated, pulling us to the quarry for a reset. Stones skipping, beers chilling in the shallows. "Families bend, they don't break," he said, arm around Jake. "But you gotta bend too, Alex. No more hiding." I nodded, vowing transparency, even as fear clawed. October's chill brought clarity. Jake's garage opened. A ribbon cutting with Mom's cookies, Sam's poster hustle, Dad's reluctant hammer tap. Customers trickled, word spreading of the gay mechanic with magic hands. Elmwood's prejudice cracking under pragmatism. I deferred school again, waitressing to help, our lives intertwining like vines. But the true gut punch came mid-month. An envelope from Lindsay, a sonogram photo clipped to a note. "For the man who taught me to walk away, be better." Jake stared, then framed it not as trophy but talisman. "She's right," he said. "We all deserve that." November wrapped Elmwood in scarves of frost, the first snow dusting rooftops like powdered sugar on forgotten pies. Jake's garage hummed now, bays alive with the growl of engines and the banter of a crew that didn't blink at his orientation. Midwest pragmatism at its finest, where work ethic trumped whispers. I'd quit the coffee grind for freelance sketches, gigging logos for local shops, my portfolio swelling with portraits that captured souls. Sam's lopsided grin mid-laugh, Mom's hands flour-dusted, Jake's eyes stormy with quiet strength. Art school loomed. Acceptance from the Columbus College of Art and Design. A scholarship that tasted like vindication. But leaving meant distance, and after the betrayals, distance felt like abandonment. We talked it out over Thanksgiving leftovers. Sprawled on his couch with the TV murmuring "It's a Wonderful Life" in black and white glow. "Go," he urged, fingers tracing my palm. "Chase it. I'll be here," wrenching away. But his voice wavered, the old fear flickering loss, the specter that had driven him to Lindsay's arms once. I pulled him close, our breaths mingling in the lamplight. "Not leaving you," I promised. "Just expanding us." The kiss sealed it, slow and deep, a reaffirmation amid the turkey haze. Sam's evolution anchored us. Christmas brought him home from law school, a stack of case briefs under one arm, a bottle of bourbon under the other. The Harrison living room twinkled with lights, stockings plump, but the air hummed with tentative peace. Dad raised a toast. To family, however it fits. His words gruff but genuine, earned through AA meetings and heart-to-hearts. Sam pulled me aside by the tree, ornaments clinking like wind chimes. "You're good for him," he admitted. "Weird as hell, but good." We clinked beers, the betrayal's ghost exorcised in that simple nod. Winter deepened, snow blanketing the town in hush, and intimacy bloomed in the cold. Nights tangled in flannel sheets. His laughter rumbling against my skin as we shoveled drives for neighbors, mittened hands brushing in conspiratorial warmth. No grand eros, just the romance of shared silences, of him humming Wonderwall off-key while fixing my lemon's brakes, me sketching him unawares, pencil capturing the curve of his smile. Emotions ran deep, raw as winter wind. His vulnerability in admitting therapy helped unpack the closet's debris, my confessions of imposter syndrome, the fear I'd always be the friend's little brother in his eyes. Climax crested in February, a Valentine's nor'easter trapping us in the garage overnight, power out, space heater flickering like a campfire. Huddled under blankets amid tool carts, we shared stories by flashlight. His little league home run that won the championship, my first crush on the debate team captain who never knew. "You were always the brave one," he said, chin on my knee. Staying that summer, calling my bluff. Thunder rumbled, and doubt surfaced. Lindsay's shadow, the what-ifs of a life unlived. "What if we crash and burn?" he whispered. "Hurt each other worse than before?" I cupped his face, thumb brushing stubble. "Then we rebuild, like you do with these wrecks." The storm broke at dawn, sun gilding the snow, and so did we. Promises renewed, rings unspoken but felt in the way he kissed my knuckles goodbye each morning. Spring unfurled tentative, crocuses pushing through frost, mirroring our thaw. I started classes, commuting the 40 minutes, sketchpad in lap as cornfields greened. Jake's business boomed, a custom job for the mayor's vintage Chevy netting headlines in the Elmwood Gazette. Local hero revs uptown pride. Pride. The word carried weight now, literal in June's parade. Rainbow flags snapping along Main Street, floats with drag queens lip-syncing Gaga. We marched, hands linked. Sam beside us with a sign reading Harrison Hearts All. Cheers drowned old jeers. Dad waving from the sidelines. Mom snapping pics like a tourist. But humanism's core tested in July. When word came, Lindsay's baby boy, born healthy. Her new life in Cleveland a quiet success. Jake drove us there unannounced. A stuffed bear in tow, no claim, just goodwill. She met us at a park, infant bundled in her arms, eyes wary but softening. "You look happy," she said, handing over the gift. "Don't screw it up." He nodded, tears pricking. "Won't. Thanks for everything." No romance lingered, just respect. A chapter closed with grace. August brought crossroads. My internship in Chicago, a summer gig at a design firm that screamed opportunity. "Go," Jake echoed, but this time with steel. "I'll visit. Weekends, holidays, we're not fragile anymore." The goodbye at Union Station was a gut wrench. His hug fierce, Sam's fist bump solid. "Don't be a stranger," he warned. Train clattering north, skyline rising. I sketched the platform scene. Him waving, small but steadfast. Knowing distance forged, not frayed. Fall semester blurred in a whirlwind of critiques and city lights. Jake's calls the nightly North Star garage gossip, my disastrous subway mishaps. Thanksgiving pulled me south. The Harrison table groaning under turkey and truths. Dad carving with steady hands. "Proud of you, son," he told Jake. Then me. "Both of you." Emotions crested, tears salting the gravy. A family reforged in fire's aftermath. Winter holidays sealed it. A road trip to the Up, snowmobiling Michigan's whitescapes. Nights in a cabin with wood smoke and wine. Under auroras dancing like veils, he knelt. Not with a ring, but words. "Marry me? Not today but someday. When we're ready." I pulled him up, yes trembling on lips. The unexpected full circle. From quilted secrets to starlit vows. Back in Elmwood by New Year's, we hosted Sam's law buddies, Mom's potluck crew, even Dad's AA sponsor. Laughter echoed, betrayals banished to footnotes. Life wasn't flawless. Arguments over schedules, the grind of commutes, whispers from holdouts. But in the humanism of it, flawed folks fumbling toward light, we found romance's truest vein. Not perfection, but persistence. Years later at our wedding, backyard affair under Maple Street's tire swing, Sam best man, Lindsay a distant well-wisher. I'd look at Jake, gray threading his temples, and remember that rainy night. Unexpected? Hell yes, but the best kind. The kind that rewrites your story one heartbeat at a time.